Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Today we have a double feature as we explore the life of a young boy that's enamored with film in post-war Italy and the life of me, Nick Natal, the protagonist. I'm going to share myself in order to unlock a movie that's infamous for its multiple cuts and that has one of cinema's greatest endings. So please, be courteous to your neighbor.
Yeah, start.
Silence your cell phone.
Hey, I left my wife sick in
Please
bed
go
for
to the
this.
bathroom now.
Both my children have polio, all right? Start, or I'll tear
Grab
this
your
down with my
popcorn.
two hands.
We'll leave
Just
and get
start
a
the
refund.
movie.
Start
Grab
the
Down in front, shut up. Down in front, shut up.
And welcome to Cinema Paradiso.
Welcome to the Live a Meaningful Story podcast, where we explore connections between the movies we love and the stories we live. We are friends and colleagues with backgrounds in storytelling, filmmaking, teaching, and narrative therapy. Join us on our quest to unlock the power of storytelling for your life. I'm Derek Hatch.
My name is Nick Natal.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph Wilson.
I'm Jason Lynn.
So I've been staring at this vinyl for the Cinema Paradiso
Beautiful.
through all four recordings that we've done today.
So,
It's 1:15 and we started at 9.
no way.
Yeah, it is.
But I've been staring at Toto in the altar boy outfit for 5 hours. And it is incredible how this series has helped me clarify myself.
Wow.
It's really cool. And the first time I saw this movie, Derek, we watched it together.
Yes.
And-
I had been saying for like a couple years, you need to see this movie.
I wasn't against it.
It just never happened. We never
wasn't
did it.
ready.
Mhm.
And so then we watched it, and me and Derek were both crying like for the last 20 minutes. It didn't even get to the final part where it was really famous, but like for the last, when he leaves to go off to the train and he's sent off, we're crying from then on.
Yep. Two grown men sitting on a couch,
That's
just
hilarious.
crying
Oh.
together.
And Derek asked me what I felt. Derek asked me what I felt and like, what did I think of the ending? And I didn't know how, I knew it was a famous movie, but I didn't know how important this ending was
Mm-hmm.
and really how ambiguous it's become. But the one thing that I felt right away was that Toto was gaining something back at the end that he had lost. And it was really aspirational for me. And I held on to this and I was like, oh, I love this movie. I love Toto. And then I picked it for the series, and then I watched it again, and I watched the ending again, and I didn't have the same feeling. And then I watched the commentary on the DVD, and it was from a Yale professor who studied in Italian film and Italian media. And she goes through the entire movie, and I watched the whole thing, and it has changed everything. And the film is not what you think. Everyone on Letterboxd, this is it's still an amazing film, but this is a much more layered, much more ambiguous, a little bit darker than this very sentimental love letter to cinema.
Yes.
This is a really incredible cautionary tale. And Toto's an amazing, amazing character. A lot relates to my life, and they're all. Alfredo is very complicated as well, but that's kind of like the genesis of this and where I'm at now. So you guys all watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and keep in mind, there are two cuts to this movie.
Yeah.
I knew that. Derek was like,
I knew this.
yeah, no, I knew it, but I didn't care to watch the second one because Derek said it's no good. But that was the original cut from the director, and that's the original story. And so the director then recut it because the financiers or the studio said this is not going to make money, so it needs to be recut.
Well, actually, it's even worse than that.
Oh.
So
Go ahead, context.
they released, they did a couple like limited screenings before the movie came out, and it wasn't being well received. So that was the 170-ish minute version. That is now the director's cut. Before it was officially released, he cut it down to 150 minutes. That was what was released in Italy. After it was released in Italy, it bombed really hard. And the producer said, I don't want to give up on this film. If we can trim it to a tighter 120 minutes, if we can get to the heart of the story, which is Alfredo and Toto, and clear out everything else, and then I think we'll have it. So then they release it internationally, and the movie still doesn't do well. Then they take it to Cannes. So they take it to the Cannes Film Festival, probably one of the 2 most prestigious film festivals in the world. They take it there, and it explodes. Like dynamite, it hits. And it's the 120-minute version they do.
It's the one that's really well-known and beloved.
Then people go back to it and give it another chance. Then Roger Ebert comes out glowing about it. And then it wins an Oscar for Best Foreign Film. And then, years later, the director's like, I still want my movie, my version shown. So he releases in the DVD the 170-minute version. So that's 50 extra minutes of movie.
So with that in mind...
And it is incredibly divisive when that is released.
With that in mind, when I told everybody to watch it, me, Derek, and Jason watched the very well-known 2-hour one, and Joe watched the director cut. And so it's perfect.
Not knowing, but again, I didn't
it's perfect
know,
because there's so much here that I had to piece together the last couple of days. And you need the director's cut. You need that story to flesh out even more of what's happening. So you guys saw it.
Before we get too deep into this, let's go ahead and do the letterbox real quick. An enchanted village, a wonderful friendship, star-crossed lovers, and the magic of the movies. A filmmaker recalls his childhood when he fell in love with the movies at his village's theater and formed a deep friendship with the theater's projectionist.
The story is so well known. What did you think of the ending first? Like, as you're watching it, the end is so famous and so powerful.
Ending? Is it the same?
It's the same exact ending
when he's watching the film.
Yeah.
So very, very briefly, Alfredo and Toto have a mentor-mentee relationship. Alfredo sends Toto off to go live his life, and Alfredo,
when he's a young man,
to do what you love, go live your life,
And never come back.
and don't come back. He comes back when Alfredo dies. Actually, he hears that Alfredo dies, and that opens the story. And so we retell his life through his eyes. While Toto's in bed, it's like just a flashback. At the end, as he comes back for Alfredo's funeral, Alfredo leaves him a gift, and it's these cutout clips of all of the kisses that were taken out of the films that he wasn't allowed to see as a kid. And so the end is this big, grand, beautiful, really borderline transcendent ending where Alfredo reconnects with all of these images that he was not allowed to see as a child. But there is debate on what is actually happening to his character. And as you guys watched it, like, what did you see in the end in the story?
I wasn't sure. I was like, is there hope in this? Is there regret from a life not lived in this? Like, is he like seeing the love that he lost, and is he going to pursue that, like what his mom says, or is he going to do that? Or because it just ends there, I'm like, maybe he is, like, maybe he's giving a reminder of this. I felt like it could have gone either way. I was leaning towards the hopeful, but I wasn't sure. It didn't say that, but it was so interesting that I was like, as I saw the first scene, I'm like, oh, I know what this is gonna be. It's just gonna be all the cuts of the kissing, and I'm like, is this love? Is this lust and affection? Like, what? Huh?
What were you feeling? Were you crying?
I did tear up, but it wasn't at that point. It was do I say that now, or just do I tell you later?
Yeah, no, just talk. I don't
So yeah,
talk.
No,
I don't know about order.
Like I said, I tend to, and it's hard for me to watch a movie subjectively first. It's not the way my mind starts. So it's hard to pull myself out of it. It's hard. But the thing when I did tear up was when they were knocking down Cinema Paradiso.
Oh yeah.
And it reminded me of a place that we would go every year for Thanksgiving in Sebastian, Florida, the Ferndale Lodge. We'd stay there, little mom and pop run lodge, and there's this big stretch of land, of grass, from the lodge all the way out to the shore. Like, you look and you just see almost like a half mile of grass and palm trees, and there's a hammock and a dock that juts out even further where we put our boat. You walk out of the door and that's all you see, and you could just run to the dock. And it's fun, and I imagine that place like not being knocked down and dying, because the people did sell it, and it felt like that place was being destroyed and dying, and that's how I was relating to understand what he's seeing. That nostalgia that I had.
Nostalgia is a key word for this movie.
Nostalgia. I felt like that was huge, and so I wasn't sure about the ending. It felt a little hopeful, but I was like leaned toward, here's what I lost. Now where do I go?
Yeah.
Well, what did he lose when we say that? Because it's just so unclear.
Yeah.
What was he giving back?
You know what? Now I don't know.
Can we get
Now I'm
Joe
not sure.
and
Go ahead.
Because I feel like it's a like he has closure
Oh.
in a sense. He was sent off as a young man without any real closure within his community, but coming back, like going back over there and retrieving something that was that was given to him, I felt like was the closing moment for him. It's not necessarily he, I guess, was given something. I feel like what he was given was closure.
Closure to what, though?
Closure to reconciling his old life for what he is doing now. I feel like this is that bridge. Him going back home is bridging the old life into the new life where there was no middle ground. It was just a straight like, and now I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the bridge to help him understand the meanings, or to allow him to be able to move into that true manhood, I guess. That's how I interpreted that.
Yeah.
Now I don't know now.
Yeah, so
But hold on a minute.
I
Hold
think
on.
this is cool.
I think
We can start at the end with our opinions, and then we can start
We'll
from the beginning
backtrack,
of the
yeah.
story.
That's
and
how he
go
did in the
through
movie.
it, and then,
Yeah.
So I will say now I'm thinking of the story that Alfredo told him of the knight who waited every day under the balcony for 99 days and
then
left.
left on 100.
And I wonder if that's what happened to Alfredo. He left right at the
Toto?
end of something. Toto, yeah, Toto. I think, I don't know, this is a maybe, but I think that's related to what he lost or what he left. I think that's important in there, but I'm ready to listen because
All right.
now I thought I had a handle on this film. Now I don't.
Let me
'Cause I
jump,
just got
let me
challenged
jump
on
in
what I
on this
thought.
conversation with the ending here. So
But there's missing pieces that you don't
So
know.
I actually had this ending ruined for me in a way. I already knew how it was going to end. So I saw that Simpsons clip that does the Cinema Paradiso. I saw that when I was in high school.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember thinking, my God, that is some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard in my whole life. Where on earth does it come from? So I looked up the score and I immediately bought it on iTunes. I'm a romantic at heart.
Derek is
This
hilarious.
movie touches the romantic, the inner romantic in me. So I bought the score and I listened to the score for probably about like a year, like all the time, obsessed with it. Didn't even see the movie, just into the score. Then I said, I wonder where this movie is. I couldn't find it anywhere. This movie, before the days of streaming and all that stuff, I couldn't find it at a video rental store, couldn't find it anywhere. This movie was like buried, so hard to get. It wasn't until a couple years after, I think maybe 2015, I moved to Florida in 2014. I remember like being in my apartment, and one day I was on a streaming service and I saw it and I said, Tori, this is that movie that I've been obsessed with the score for like 8 years and I've been trying to find it.
She said, which one?
Yeah, exactly. So I finally saw the movie in 2015 and I was an emotional wreck when I saw it, despite me knowing the ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the movie. I watched the movie probably at least once every couple of years or so since then. I adore it. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. But my view of the ending has changed over the years in terms of me trying to figure out what it actually means. Even the conversation Nick and I were having after initially said it, we couldn't land on it at that moment.
Well, it's so funny.
And
Derek, I love you so much, dude, because I'm like, yo, I'm listening to this commentary from this Yale doctorate, like 1,000-year professor.
Stop, don't share this.
And I'm like, yo, like, this is from a Yale professor that studied in Italian film. And Derek's like, that's a horrible take. And then he sends me 2 YouTube videos that have 1,000 views each. And he's like, I agree with these. And I'm like, hey, we got some videos that are 1,000 views also, and there's some really good analysis.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's like a lot of weight. And then he sends me a letterbox review from just some random person that's like six sentences. And I'm like, oh God. And so I'm like trying to like, okay, just because you are
Let
this
the
person,
common people
you don't have too much weight, but it's not leaving me.
Yeah.
Like this is I can't connect to what you're sending me. I'm genuinely connecting to this. I'm like, whoa,
What was the Yale person saying, and then what were the?
Well, so to start off with like an anchor for the podcast, I think it comes down to the image of Toto in the altar boy uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So what she kind of divides the film into is this idea that here's a boy that kind of had two paths. And one was the priesthood.
Mm-hmm.
He's an altar boy, but then he gets pulled from that, and his mentor now becomes Alfredo instead of the priest. And the secular version of religion is really cinema.
Yes.
Cinema takes the place of God, and he now studies at the altar of the movie theater and no longer the church.
Yes.
And so the whole cinema Paradiso is a symbol for the church.
And it is
That's what
interesting
the
that it is
city's
called
founded.
Paradise, right? The
That's what
theater
this-
is called Paradise.
Jason, it's awesome. Jason's jaw's on the floor.
Yeah.
Just wait, dude. This movie is amazing. It's
I'm ready, dude.
yeah.
That's so
I just thought about that when you said it, the altar boy again. I was like,
It
And-
opens
and-
with him
pulling
being
Yes.
him away
introduced
from.
Yeah.
as an altar boy.
And this is why, after all of the commentary, all the stuff you've sent me, we've sent back and forth. There was a moment yesterday when we were texting, and I texted something because I was like, what if it's this? And I was kind of nervous to text it. But I said, I think, what if the ending
Wait,
is, you don't want me to say it yet? Okay, I'm going to hold it.
because we gotta talk about
I think-
Alfredo.
But I think that might be it,
I
though,
think it
right?
is,
With
too.
everything, as hard as it is to say what the ending
Oh
is.
my gosh, I'm seeing more. I'm seeing more.
Yeah,
So
We'll
get
there, but-
and especially
Yeah.
from
You don't know the director's cut, so you
I
don't
would
know
say
fully.
So,
Yeah,
and even with on that side,
I'm
I
seeing
still have a
pieces.
sense of just like I can see it that way, but I'm seeing it in a whole different way than just like him going down. Yes, I full-heartedly believe he had two choices that were taken in that moment, but I don't believe that it's the religious or the sinful route. I believe it's the being complacent in your home, like him having to stay in his home, or him branching out and learning new things. And I feel like when we start talking about it, I feel like that's why I feel like Alfredo's decision and what he did kind of makes sense, and I can kind of get behind why he chose to do those actions.
Well, it's
Well-
ambiguous.
well,
It's not black and white.
The fatherhood aspect of this movie has to get explored, right? Because one of the things that's key is that we don't see Toto's father. So check this out, because I said this to Nick and this blew my mind. Toto learns that his father died by watching it on the cinema screen in the newsreel.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't catch that.
So that's wild. The cinema is revealing the fate of his father.
Yeah.
And his Alfredo says that his father kind of looks like Clark Gable, the famous movie star. Then there's a moment where, is it after the funeral, Nick, where this happens?
No,
Or-
it's just Alfredo's funeral?
No. After the dad's funeral,
Yeah,
this moment I'm about to share?
Yeah, because
So,
then she's walking down.
he's walking with his mom and he sees a poster of Clark Gable on the, like, walking by that looks like his dad.
But
And-
he's looking up at his mom weeping because
Yeah.
they come to the
Yes.
realization that the father's dead.
Yeah.
He's looking up at her, and then he looks over to the poster
Mhm.
and sees Clark Gable, remembers what Alfredo told him, sees
Mm-hmm.
his father in a movie poster, and he smiles.
And he stops weeping.
The disconnect, the cinema is now becoming his father.
Yes. And
Yeah.
Alfredo is the
figure.
head. Yes,
Yeah.
he's the figure that represents that.
And
Yeah.
so it's even hammered more because when the film reels catch fire in his home, Alfredo picks it up, and the burn from the fire burns into the picture of the
Of the
family
father, yeah.
and takes away the father.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the celluloid is now taking away the father position
Yes.
in Toto's life. So here is just a young boy who is growing up in a very religious Catholic environment,
Yeah.
who doesn't have a father figure in this story,
Yeah.
who does genuinely love film and is caught without any guidance. And his guidance becomes a projectionist
Yes.
who takes him under his wing and teaches him about the passions that he loves. But there's a lot to Alfredo that skews this picture. So Alfredo is somebody that never achieved any of his dreams. He's alone in a projectionist booth.
Yeah.
There's I didn't catch it either, but the Well, I caught it, but I didn't know really like the significance of the mother is like, what are you doing with this young boy? You know how old you are?
Yeah.
This is not appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
why are you playing games with a kid at your age?
Alfredo
Shouldn't
is
you be
like
ashamed
50.
of yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alfredo's
Well, and
like
remember,
50.
one of the early scenes with Alfredo is he's in school with Toto because he
Yes.
never got an education.
He has like a third grade level.
Right.
He's asking him for help.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
cheating off of kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, it's not black and white. He catches his mom beating Alfredo, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! He's just a young boy." So it's this mix of like genuine loving care, but also Alfredo's got his bags that he puts on Toto. And so in the projection booth, me and Derek were talking. This is an autobiographical film. So the projectionist Alfredo is really the director, and he's telling Toto, "This is no life for you.
Yeah.
This is a lonely life." I think it's in your notes. Like you become a slave to film.
Yeah.
He's like, the cinema needs you now, and you need the cinema, but it's not gonna last. And he's like pushing him out because the view of the story, the view that the director has, and the view that Alfredo has, is that romantic love and film and art, they are mutually exclusive. They do not come together. And so I have it written down what she says. She says, the cinema is about living in a state of unfulfilled desire. In the myth of romantic love is based on desire itself that can never be fulfilled because fulfillment would be disappointment. And she says, basically what Alfredo says with that story about the soldier, he says he doesn't know what it means at the end, but that's what it means. He goes, this story needs to be unfulfilled for great art.
Yes.
And so he's pressing that ideology onto Toto because that's his ideology. And Toto, when he starts to become, and we're starting to jump a little bit, I'm sorry, audience, but when he gets to be a teenager, he's looking at the love of his life through the camera lens, and it's out of focus. The one right before that's a bull going to the slaughter. And then she sees a girl that's out of focus. So his view, his lens is very broken, and Alfredo's hammering that in even further.
Hammering it further out of focus.
Yes.
He's doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the autobiographical thing you shared can't be understated because the director, again, there's not much you can learn about him. He's a very private guy. He says, my work speaks for itself. But one of the things that I did find in an interview, when he was asked, how would you describe your life? This is the statement he made. I am one who does not believe and who regrets it. And I feel like that is this movie. This is Toto. His father figure, his literal earthly father, has been stripped of him. God the Father has been stripped of him. And all that is left now is this path of cinema.
So this is like a cautionary tale.
It's something that I'm wrestling with a lot. But,
Yeah.
One of the things that the woman who's on the commentary, she's talking about the first cinema that burns down. I don't know if she said this or if I'm saying it, but that was really Toto's innocence. Because the next cinema, Nuevo Paradiso, becomes something totally different. She calls it a pleasure dome.
Yes.
Yes.
And that changes.
Because the pleasurable moments in the film are no longer taken out by the priestess there.
Right.
They let it play, and he's like, and then he's like, I will not watch pornographic images, and then he leaves the cinema, and now it's
leaves Toto to it.
Toto to it.
So here's something that needs to be said.
That's the new father.
Yes. Here's something that needs to be said too with that, Nick, is the Cinema Paradiso is originally introduced to us as something that is basically run by the church, right? And we know that, in my opinion, this movie is also a meta commentary on the history of cinema in the 20th century.
Yes.
So originally, the church was the gatekeeper of many art forms, but as cinema, in particular, as an art form, started to grow beyond its confines, it was starting to override what traditional institutions like the church would say, and it was winning more favor, you could say, with the culture. And that's what you're seeing in that moment. Because now, and by the way, there was a time period like the 37, 36, when the code got passed.
I'm not sure.
The code that was basically put on all films that you can't have like this, you can't have anything like sexual, you can't have anything like violent, right? Like there was a strict code put on movies, and it was there until I think like the end of the 50s, right? Like a long time.
I think that's where I get at. It's the hiding of what is truly going on and
Yes.
teaching of what
The
is
church,
happening.
and I think that's one of the faults is that the church is not trying to raise Toto
Mm-hmm.
as a man who's ready to engage in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The church is failing him.
Yeah,
But
and
as
stripping away anything that is deemed inappropriate.
But here comes the cinema, and the cinema is offering that taste
Mhm.
of like, this is what it's like to be a human being living in the world.
But
And that is what not just is raising Toto,
Yeah.
but as we see in those scenes with the Nueva Cinema Paradiso, that's what's influencing people, right? Because the stories that they're seeing on the screen are influencing the actions within the theater.
yeah,
So you see, like, if there's something sleazy, there's prostitution, like, there's things like that going on. There's the boys jacking off when
Yeah.
they see, right? Like, the stories that we see influence us. And that's why I think it's one of the greatest movies ever, because it's a movie that's actually showing you, like, how movies influence you. And this movie is so ridiculously manipulative in the best way possible because Morricone's damn score is so, like, romantic
Yeah.
and beautiful. And it makes you feel that nostalgia for that time as it once was, right? But what we're also seeing at the same time is underneath all of this, of what it's saying about cinema, is we're seeing a young man whose own story is being shaped by all these different stories and by the concept of cinema itself. And like what Nick is saying, I think there's something about it where on one hand, we could say, wow, he's finding himself. He's discovering himself, right? He's finding his passion, but on the other side, he's losing something as well that should have been given to him, but was taken from him.
The commentary goes on to talk about when he goes into the confessional booth to confess his love.
yeah,
When he's a
Elena?
teenager.
yeah.
He's stepping into the role of the priest. Like this is it's side like that's kind of the path that he's struggling with,
Yeah.
this role of the priesthood, and then. Did you see it? Jason's jaws
With
on the
his
floor
love.
again.
Yeah.
So what she go ahead.
He's becoming the priest of that movie theater.
Yeah.
Because he's
Yeah.
taking
Yes.
Alfredo's place, and he's the one who's showing the public life. Like, this is the truth. He's the one who's the messenger now after he steps into that.
But of course, how he does that is through taking Alfredo's mythical story of the 99 days,
Yeah.
and he's trying to make that story his story. Just like all the stories of cinema, he's trying to adapt them into his life in some way.
Yeah.
And that's why there's that moment where it's like they're on the water in the boats and they're watching the movie, and he Elena's gone for a while and he's laying there in the rain.
She
And-
pops up.
And then, well, yeah, but what is the line he says before it pops
This
up?
was a movie.
If this was a movie, this would happen. And then bam, she pops right up.
I was almost like,
And
is
it's
this even
almost-
real right now?
Yeah. Well, it's almost affirming to him his emerging worldview, right? It's almost like the director is almost like God confirming to him that your life is like a movie. And then when Elena is stripped, taken away from him, and Alfredo has that line where he says, life is not like the movies, it hits him as such a gut punch. And I think that contributes to the lostness he feels later.
But so I was gonna say quickly, there's another line in the new Cinema Paradiso when he's a projectionist. When the kisses are on the screen, he looks away. There's
Toto does?
Toto looks away.
Huh.
What I think is that original one was his innocence, and then the new one is his loss of innocence, because he's not the same person when the new one comes onto the screen.
I think he was still already on that path of losing innocence because he's smoking cigarettes in the theater with his kids in their fifth grade.
But that's not the innocence that's a different kind.
Yeah. It's like when he's in there, he's almost like one of the
his
the
optimism.
public.
Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't stop his optimism and his
I see that.
and his idealism.
Okay. Okay, I see what you mean.
But
Innocence in that.
I'm not sure where to go, but when we get to that conversation with Alfredo, it's important to know that that's framed around all these rusty anchors that are intertwined with each other. And so
And that are on the shore and stuck.
yeah, so one really, really interesting article that I read, I sent Derek. I don't know if you read the whole thing, but there's this professor that kind of compares the Odyssey and Ulysses and Christianity in that moment, because it's on the sea and you have these sailing metaphors. He's next to the sea and the cross is in the background.
Yes.
So Toto is caught in between these pagan stories and Christianity.
The Odyssey is one of the movies that's shown on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's specifically when Ulysses is leaving the Cyclops' island, and
And in that movie, when Alfredo when Toto kisses the girl, the Cyclops falls in the movie, and you have Ulysses as a hero, and then Toto as the hero of this story.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what Alfredo does is Alfredo is the rusty anchor.
Mm-hmm.
Alfredo is someone that never left, and Alfredo
is trying to push
harshly
him.
pushes him and says, nobody leaves here. This is what it's like here, because that's how Alfredo is. And Alfredo projects, she says that Toto becomes the screen to which Alfredo projects all his desires. And so he says, do not come back. But there's good advice in that.
I was going to say, because from my interpretation of it, it was that he's saying to him, yes, if you stay here, you're going to just be stuck in this rundown thing.
Yeah.
You're going to end up just like me. So you need to go branch off. You need to use your talents to branch off. Don't come back here. And that's why I think when it gets to that point,
that changes that scene. Changes that scene. That
I still think
the director's cut changes that scene a lot.
Mm-hmm. I think the director's cut, I feel like, enhances that scene in saying you should just go, because Alfredo, when we get to it, he's pretty much taking the only thing that would anchor Toto to staying on the island. So we'll get to that.
So he's cutting himself. Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, it almost is contrasting to what I feel like Alfredo's trying to do. I'm learning as we go, because it sounds like Alfredo does not want that to happen to Toto, so he pushes him to go away to avoid that.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're saying that by doing that, he's actually doing the same thing that happened to him to Toto. That's what it feels like, which is like conflicting. So
or he's
trying
like
to
projecting himself onto him.
So because you're saying it almost feels like in trying to get him away from the cinema, you're saying it's pushing Toto further. Like it's like by pushing him away
something, but we haven't said what that something is yet.
But it sounds like it's not what he's trying to do.
If you look at Toto now is, like I said, he's a fatherless boy. He has a real passion for film, and he needs guidance. And the guidance he gets is from Alfredo, and that guidance is very clearly the worldview of love and the worldview of film. And it's contrasting with Christianity. So film becomes the father. It takes over the father figure. And the idea of love, according to Alfredo, especially in that story, says that love, real love, is...
Romantic love and cinema are mutually exclusive?
Alfredo's own... No, great art. So Alfredo's own idea of great art is that great art can only be created at the expense of domestic happiness. Alfredo has defined art and love as mutually exclusive. And he takes that choice away from Toto.
Yes.
Okay, that you could have both.
He takes that choice away, and he tells him that story. And in that story, Alfredo says a very key line. He says, if I were God, it would have took me a little bit longer, but I would make a few things differently. I'd make them better. Alfredo has that complex over Toto's life because Alfredo has his own issues that he never resolved.
Yeah.
That's good.
And Toto could have put together great art and the church and love.
Yeah.
And what Alfredo has done is he said no.
You can't.
Yeah.
They are exclusive.
Right. So
and you must leave. You must leave and go pursue your love of art and never come back. And that left Toto towards the end. That left him alone, and that's what starts the story all over again.
So and also with that,
that's good.
When you get to the New Year's Eve moment where Toto is going every night, waiting at Elena's house.
Yeah.
And the New Year's Eve, which by the way is one of my favorite shots of the movie, is when he's walking down the street, all the fireworks, everyone's celebrating, right?
Yeah.
And he's alone on New Year's Eve. That I think that's almost a foreshadow of where his life is going from there. Now it's interesting because when he goes to the projection booth, he has this moment where he's angry and he's frustrated. But then Elena does come. But then again, that's taken from him as well. We are not even mentioning that he like goes into the military and all this other stuff happens to him, right? As a young man.
You said I will be getting back in 3 months. It's been a year.
Yes.
That's part of like the Italian post-world stuff that I'm not super aware of the politics of that.
Right.
Wasn't this going on during one of the
after World War II?
Yeah.
I think it's right after. And that's because where his dad died.
Yeah. But
keep your Stalin, keep your anti-communism.
But even with that, it wasn't just the church that was taking out stuff in the film. It was that political side too that was taking stuff out of the film. So was the church really serving under the religious side, or were they serving under a political flag? Because
I think it's both, to be honest.
So then
there's soldiers or / policemen in the theater.
Yeah. So then
guards.
So then if Alfredo would have went that route with the Christianity route, that's still not true Christianity because it's muffled.
That's kind of the tragedy of Toto, is that I love his small little town. It is like such an incredible set piece, all these characters, but Toto's kind of yeah, exactly. But Toto's almost like set up to fail. Like he doesn't really have a way forward, and that's I think what the tragedy of this movie is. Because do you want me to say it now? Do you want me to say it?
Yeah. Can we get into the?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay,
I guess we're here.
I'm gonna say it now.
So he goes off and he comes back.
Yes,
and then he starts to look around the old
neighborhood
Paradise House, and this is right when the commentary starts to go. And she starts talking, and she says something that's so interesting, and I think it's so true. She says that she was at a DVD store or whatever, and she found the movie. She found the director's cut with a bunch of people, and they didn't know a director's cut existed. And so when they watched it, they all got really mad.
Yep.
And they said that's not my movie.
Yep.
And
I said the same thing.
That's not my Cinema Paradiso, because she said that people have possessed it and internalized it so strongly that they couldn't even this is it. It's not what you think. Yeah. And I think that's kind of coincides with Toto, because what falls in that Paradiso is not just his nostalgia. What falls is a lot more.
Yes.
And then you can go
and that's what it is I think after all this figuring out we've been trying to do. And by the way, that scene when he goes back in the theatrical cut, it's only like 10 minutes.
Really?
Yes.
That's like the
so
last
I
know.
What's in the theatrical cut?
So the theatrical cut, he goes back
That's crazy, sorry.
Yeah. No.
This is why it's 50 minutes that you've seen that we have, and 50.
Yeah.
That's
because
crazy.
most of the director's cut is in that section.
Yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
All that happens is he goes back, he attends Alfredo's funeral, he has the conversation with his mom, he looks at the old video footage.
That's all?
Wait, hold on, let me finish.
Hang on.
He looks at the video footage in his room. He has the conversation with Alfredo's wife, widow, where he gets the gift. Then he goes and watches the gift, and that's how the movie ends. That's it in the last 10 minutes. Oh, and the theater blows up. Sorry, the theater blows up. But that's it. Now, there's a moment before I reveal the ending. There's a moment where when he leaves on that train to go, and I didn't get this until Nick texted it to me.
Yeah, there's another part.
Yeah, where Nick, you mentioned like the priest doesn't show up.
He doesn't.
And
make
he says something, and I never caught what the line meant until you said it.
Priest says, "I'm too late."
Yeah.
The last one to show up.
Yep.
To wave Toto, to even get to Toto.
And he goes, oh, bye. See you later.
But
I noticed that he just ran around the corner. Oh, I guess I was late. I was late.
Yeah, but I guess I was late. That's the tragedy, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess I was late. So when he's watching in this ending, I think it easily top five.
Wait, Jason doesn't know. So what's in the director's cut? What's in the director's cut?
Oh yeah, tell him what's in it.
That I can't remember it, but does Elena go to the train station to meet?
So okay,
yeah, Joe, go ahead.
That's all there's a lot in the movie.
Yeah, so he does what he does the first time, and he goes into the phone booth and calls her, and he's watching her through the window, like, "Hey, I'm here. Are you still living here? We should meet up." And she's like, "We're old people. Why would we?"
No. So isn't there a scene where Alfredo tells Elena that this relationship's not going to work?
Yes, that's earlier though. That's earlier on.
That's not in the theatrical.
Yes,
right.
So there's a part.
In the director's cut.
Where Elena and Toto miss each other, but Elena runs into Alfredo.
No. Okay, so I was getting into that.
Hold on.
I was getting into
so this is when he gets the call for military service and he's about to leave.
No, this is at the end of the movie where he's an older man and he's back. It's a flashback. So this is taking place in that, and it explains a flashback of what happened at that night.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay. That's why I'm confused.
Yeah.
Too.
No,
Okay.
he's correct.
Oh, so
Okay.
so it's a flashback of earlier that happens at the end.
Yes.
Of the movie.
Yes. It reveals.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Joe, go ahead.
And
Go
that
ahead.
flashback is
So the flashback is it's revealed that they both missed each other. She actually came that night to see, but he was off. I think he was off trying to find her or something like that, right? So she actually confronts Alfredo when Alfredo is up there in the cinema, and she's like, "Hey, can you tell where I'm going to be at? Can you tell him where I'm going to be?" Gives him all this information, and he doesn't tell Tito. He doesn't tell him at all. Toto. Sorry, he doesn't tell Toto at all. And so when they're confronting each other as older people now, they're both like.
so I don't even know that they meet.
Yeah, so
they
meet as older.
So when do they meet?
So they meet when he's back for the funeral. He calls her like at that same phone booth and says, "Hey, I'm outside."
When they're old, yeah.
when they're older.
How did he have her number? He's been calling her.
He found her in the phone book because again, he was going back to that same old town.
Don't get too much detail.
Yeah.
Just
So-
keep going.
So thank you, phone book. You're dumb.
I was
So,
like, sure you
but
catch
she's like, why would we meet? We're both old people. There's nothing that could happen between us. We should just let this die, pretty much. And so Toto goes to the Anchor Beach that he had the conversation with Alfredo, and she meets him there. And he's like, how do you know that I was even here? I know that this would be your spot. And so they're talking, and they're realizing that they both had the same love for each other. They just missed it because Alfredo did not tell Toto all the information that he could have gotten to actually rekindle the relationship with them.
Because Alfredo's idea was, you're going to make great art one day. You can't be here anymore. I got stuck. You can't get
Didn't
stuck.
want him to settle down
This
and
is
have a
what
family.
real life is. And you need to go and I need to hear about you.
So
And it
Alfredo
comes back,
takes away that opportunity.
Alfredo's married and stuck.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's interesting because I interpret that as that is the thing that is going to keep him at a place of mediocrity, in a sense of just that cycle of not leaving the community. And with this talent now, you can leave the community. You can find your love, I guess, somewhere else. This is like a child, like this is a kid, playful love. You can still go out and find that, but you need to remove yourself from just this little bubble that you know.
And when I watched it again, I wrote down, you need to go away for a long time, for many years before you can come back and find your people, the land where you were born. But now it's impossible. And I'm thinking, wow, this advice is amazing.
Yeah.
This is applying to my life.
Yeah.
This is
That's
like,
what I was thinking. That's
that
why I
is
texted
great
you.
advice.
Yeah.
This is the journey of life where
Yeah.
you go off and then you come back a man. But then he meets with his mom and they have a conversation and his mom goes, your life is in Rome. There are only ghosts here.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm confused. Where does that leave Toto? And then the end comes and I go, is he happy? Is he like,
Okay.
where,
Let me say
where
now.
is Toto
Yeah.
now?
Okay. So when he's watching the kisses, we've already established that was something that was deprived from him, right? And what the church took away from him, hold on, Alfredo was trying to give back to him in a way, right? Now, when he's watching those scenes, he's crying, but he's also smiling. There's a lot of different ways people interpret it, but I think where we finally landed was Toto in the end of this movie is accepting that his true love is cinema.
He is alone in a theater.
He is alone.
He is alone in a theater. He ends up alone, and he ends up alone with what he loves, which is cinema. The commentary says that Alfredo returns the kisses and the love that he stole from Toto in the very beginning. But I'm not sure that's totally true because it could be that Alfredo knew the whole time that Toto, this is the only thing you do love.
Yeah.
And it's confirmed because Toto is crying and laughing and smiling alone as a filmmaker. And that's how his story ends in the movie. But hold on, just one last thing. And so the issue here is, and the commentary talks about the Eucharist. So Toto is in the beginning shown as an altar boy serving the Eucharist. And she says it's the sacrament of transubstantiation. And she says the cinema offers the secular version of transubstantiation. They are participating with the divine when they're identifying with these stories and characters. In Italian, the actress word is diva, which also means deity. And he said, culture, when cinema takes the place of the Father, that is their version of engaging with the divine.
Yeah.
And so this story cut out everything from Alfredo, cut out all of that. They cut out Toto's story to tell the story and elevate the feeling and nostalgia that cinema, the power of movies, when really it's a dark storyline in this film. Because one, movies do have an amazing power.
Yeah.
One of the favorite things in the movie is the the kids jerking off in the theater, the woman breastfeeding, the guy getting shot
in the theater.
Because so much community can happen in the theater, which is gone today.
Yeah.
It's just streaming. And they mention that in the film. It just goes to DVDs and the technology changes. People are not in community living around stories any longer. Communities don't even look like the Italian village, where most of that village was lived out in public. And the part where he takes the projection
and turns it
moves
on the building,
and puts it out is
I think that's
so
where I started
beautiful.
crying. It is, yeah.
It is that is a transcendent moment to me, that this has so much power, and it does have that much power for good. But the ultimate story that this says is that this is transcendent above all. And here's the story of Toto, who falls in love with that transcendence. And he's alone in that theater at the end.
So he falls in love with the image, and he's not able to look past the image. And that's the tragedy at the end, is because he's confined to being the teller of great stories, but he cannot live a great story. And that's the tragedy. And to make it even worse, to hammer it on even more, do you know who's in the projector booth playing that final reel of the kisses? The real director of the movie.
Oh.
He started as a projectionist.
But I also think, based on everything I've researched about him, and there's not a lot out there.
This is him.
I think this is his story. And this is, to read that quote again that I shared earlier, I am one who does not believe and who regrets it.
And so when that new cinema falls, what Toto is looking at, according to the commentary, is a life modeled on cinema-induced desires for fame and power falls in that Paradiso. And that the paradise is a place of innocence and the fall. So what's falling is both his nostalgia and how he got taken advantage of, his idealism, everything that he believed, his success, everything in that cinema really falls to the ground. And what's ultimately just left on the floor is him watching a movie in the theater alone.
Is the most damn depressing.
It's devastating. It's devastating. And I was like, I hate this so much now. Like, I hate this so much, because in some ways my apartment could be the movie theater. And I don't know if I love anything more than cinema. And I think that's not true, because I love you guys and I have love in my life.
Yeah. But you have such a strong passion for cinema. Yeah.
And so the idea of, I have this hope, this dream, apply to film graduate school in New York City at NYU, and I hear back in a couple of months, and that could be a door that opens up. It could be a very similar story. I'm sitting in front of Derek, who grew up in the church, who studied the church, who tried to understand that side and went to go study in a world-class university, and now has lived in that confliction. And I feel like I can look at Toto and have eyes on the poster of Gone with the Wind, while my mom can walk through that rubble of destruction in her personal life. And I have eyes on this beautiful screen that has so much magic and power and potential and beauty, that can galvanize a community, that can be at the heart of communities, that tell stories. That the idea of him going back home and then his mom going, your life's not here. And I'm like, just in a place of ambiguity. I'm in this place of real ambiguity. And we talk about the original episodes of Stranger Than Paradise, where it's so strictly black and white, and they're so lost. And
now a year later,
it's so empty. And now a year later, I'm in a very difficult, ambiguous time, whether a door opens or not, whether that door is a realistic healthy
Yeah.
idea.
Mhm.
Because I just told Derek the other day, I have so many things hanging in the balance. There are so many layers of my life right now that need to be decided in the next 6 months. And then I thought, well, if my life's a movie, then this is a great story because the protagonist is in tension and it just comes to this amazing climax. And I'm Toto looking up to the sky going, my life is a movie. And it's the same filter. It's just crazy. Toto, this boy that, you know, I had a dad and I had a great dad in a lot of ways, but I also didn't have a dad because he went to prison for a little while.
Do you feel like movies took that place while he was gone?
I feel like movies took the place of something for sure.
But I
Movies
feel like
is a
you've watched
place where
stuff with your dad too.
Oh yeah, that's something that started with my dad, I think. But it took the place of something. There's something I would rather go to the movies for, or there's something I go to the movies for before anything else. And there's this sense in me that, well, if this door doesn't open up, you know, I don't have a lot of skills that Jason teaches. Like, I'm not a cook, I'm not an electrician, I'm not a carpenter, I don't have these things in my life. It could really be the priesthood. It could be going into ministry again full time. So now I'm here, I'm kind of wearing the altar boy uniform with my eyes on a movie screen. And there's a real tension there. And I was looking at this in the way of, well, this idea must be thrown away if I'm watching this movie. And this is what I'm feeling. And Derek was just kind of like, this doesn't have to be your story. This is a cautionary tale. This is a character you could keep close. This may be something God revealing and sanctifying now before you get started, that the stories aren't more important than the people. And I think that is definitely a pitfall that I've experienced, because Toto is still experiencing a joy in that room.
Yeah.
Like, there is still a joy Toto has that whether other people share it or not, he has something. But I look at that and I go, there's no way I want that.
Yeah.
It is not anything that I want. It is nothing that I work towards on the podcast or mentoring and that's another crazy part of this, is because Alfredo, I play that role. So I play the role of Alfredo to a young Toto.
That's funny enough, Nancy was saying that. She was like, I think Nick is both Alfredo and Toto.
And so I look at this now, and the more I see Alfredo project the rusty anchor that he is, that the things that he doesn't want Toto to become, I'm 100% capable. I fight against to project those things onto that boy.
Yeah.
Because I tell him, I go, God may call you away. I go, you may leave where you are now. Could you separate from your family? I did. Could you do it?
Yeah.
Will you ever go on a plane? We're going to go on a plane one day, because you're going to get launched out into the world, just like Alfredo did to Toto. And so that is just, well, it's.
Are you going to be able to go on a boat, on a cruise?
I mean, I would. I joke about that, but I would. I don't want to.
You might have to fight a bear for your mission.
Alfredo's a great character. He is not what he is in the theatrical version. He is much more complex than what's shown. And Toto, man, Toto's boyishness, his optimism, his love is the most infectious thing. He looks up on screen with his foot swinging on a chair. Like, I'm 35 and I
see that. Yeah, I see you do that.
It would be awesome if I was able to have been trained as a projectionist, but I was told in many ways that that's not life. Life is you just go and get a job, or life is you go and try to make money and not work as hard as other people. Like, try to find a way to beat a system. And I've come to understand even more how much what's instilled in us, whether we realize it or not, whether we think we've rejected it, is going to be there when you grow up. You're going to become almost everything that you're taught, and maybe everything that you're taught. It's going to be in you as you grow up. It turned Toto into someone that became a great artist at the expense of love in his life.
Well, one of the things that I shared with Nick last night, how I was like, I think I found your after son. Nick introduced me to After Sun over a year ago, and it messed me up. It gave me a vision of what I don't want to be as a parent. But I can't discount or Callum.
Yeah.
I can't just ignore it. I have to confront it. I have to deal with it, right? And I think with Nick, with Toto, I think it's a similar journey we're both on.
If you get a chance to look at the back of the vinyl, the pink one of Cinema Paradiso, you see Toto next to Alfredo in the middle of the community in his altar boy outfit.
And I think I don't think he lost his love because he still loves cinema. I think what he lost is a true community because he's alone at the end. It's just him.
Yeah.
And he's still in love because he's crying at the end and he has joy. But there's no one with him.
Alfredo telling him to leave the community.
Mm-hmm.
We also left cinema too.
He did lose that.
That's that ending. Me and Derek were going back and forth, and then he said, "What if it's Toto finally accepting this is his love?" And I go, "That could be it." And then I went, "That's it." And then I went, "Bro, that's it."
Yeah, like 3 times.
That is it. This is
He's
a
alone.
tragic portrait of a man married to cinema alone.
And he never moves on.
So the last part is I wonder if it's not Alfredo returning what he stole and now he can go live his life. It's Alfredo knew the whole time, this is the path, this is what you love, and I'm gonna keep you on the path. And this is a reminder as I die. Remember, you're alone. You come back to this home where there's nothing here.
You have
the
something
Paradiso
still.
dies and it falls down. Everybody's old. Your mom says your life's in Rome. Remember, this is great art, and this is what you do. And now this is your wife.
And he's stuck to it.
and
It's
he's
just
stuck to
keeping him stuck there forever.
It's a different cycle.
And he cries and he laughs.
It is a different cycle because even if Alfredo had the best intentions of wanting him to leave the community that he's stuck in because he didn't want him to be stuck in the same, he's still stuck in something. At the end of the day, when you're still just giving your life to one thing, it's still not a celebration. You're still going to be doing it alone. It's what community. It's the community.
This is actually Joe's worst nightmare in a way.
Yeah, it's being alone. Like I remember we had a conversation at Nick's place. Like Nick and I were talking. We're asking like, what would you do? Like if you could just have anything and had the limited amount of resources, blah blah blah, what would you want to do? And we both were kind of similar. Like we would just want to make our films and that be it. But I feel like this is that cautionary tale if that is just all we did. And it is scary because I'm realizing now that how quickly time moves. Time will not wait for you. And if all you are doing is spending your time just trying to strive for something, trying to strive for this, trying to strive for that, and not sitting and realizing the things that you do have, you're going to end up alone. You're just going to end up an old man alone.
And as if all of that wasn't enough, as we're having these conversations last night, guess what arrives at my door?
What?
My brother's Christmas present to me. And I texted Nick. I'm like, dude, it's a sign. Do you know what it was? Cinema Paradiso.
Really?
It was the movie. As we're having this conversation, it arrives. And you're like, it's a sign of something.
It is, though, because you showed me the movie. I was thinking this would be my protagonist pick before that. I watched it and vaguely picked it because I love movies. Yeah. And then I had to watch it again and then watch it with a commentary and then talk to you for like a day straight about what it means. And, I'm still in a place that's ambiguous, that's torn between something that I love and I love both. But it's not even that they're separate. I can love God and love film at the same time.
Well, and that's like Ashitaka, right? Ashitaka can love God and love humans despite the things that are imperfectly done around both of those concepts. There's something we connect with the protagonist. It doesn't mean it's our story, but we do identify with some key aspect of them.
Yeah, this was good.
Yeah, thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
How is this helping us live a more meaningful story?
It's helping us to live a meaningful story.
Yeah, because this is the result if you do not live a meaningful story. You end up
when
alone.
you become consumed with the story itself, right? When you become consumed with the story. Our tagline has always been like exploring the connections between the stories we love and live. Well, if the stories you love become everything and the story you live suffers at the altar of that, then you're missing it. That's why our podcast is not We Love Movies. Our podcast is Live a Meaningful Story, because as we watch movies, that's where we want to go. That's probably a good place to end it. So thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Thank you for this. And tune in next month as we continue with another set of episodes. And until then, guys.
Hey, Alfredo! Get stuffed!
Yeah, he ran out.
Yeah, get fucked.
Thank you for listening to the Live a Meaningful Story podcast, produced by All Things Narrative. If you'd like to learn more about our coaching, workshops, events, please check out allthingsnarrative.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at All Things Narrative. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and tune in next time as we continue exploring the stories we love and the stories we live. Take care.